Speedsters of CircuitPython and Roadsters of Code, it's Prof G, and this is a CircuitPython challenge, Shake and Bake, the Ballad of an Accelerometer. It's one of 7 questions on an exam I gave to my physical computing students. It tests a bunch of techniques, including PWM audio, playing MP3 files, accelerometer configuration, shake detection, value looping, conditionals, and the use of the Ternary Operator. I love giving exams with pop culture references, and this has my students play through a set of 13 MP3 files from one of my favorite movies, Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Now, once that 13th file is reached, the sound loops back to the first file. Now, this is for the CircuitPlayground Bluefruit. Since the CircuitPlayground Express isn't strong enough to play MP3 files, it can be easily adapted to other boards like the Raspberry Pi Pico. If you want to play along with the home game, I'll show you the test question first. You can pause, give it a try, and then I'll show you a solution. So let's get shaken! The movie Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby is property of Sony Pictures. This lesson is offered as educational, non-commercial use only. Images and sound are employed as a parody. All rights reserved by the Columbia Pictures Division of Sony Pictures. This lesson may cause laughter in some patients. Some patients may experience abdominal pain. Do not take if allergic to CircuitPython. So you'll see me coding PyCharm. If that's new to you, I've got a lesson in my course playlist, but I'll start with a comment on the file name, shakeandbake.py. Then the question states that all files are found in a folder at this URL, bit.ly/circuitpython-school-files, all lowercase. That's the open Google Drive with support files for this course. Find the folder named Shake, right-click and download it. Mine is going to the desktop. Yours will probably go to your Downloads folder. Unzip the file if you need to, and then head to the desktop. You need to drag this into the CircuitPy volume, so make sure your board is plugged in. This folder takes up a lot of room, so I'm going to delete any extra files that I don't need. Then drag the Shake folder over onto your CircuitPy volume. If you have too many libraries, you might need to delete those as well. My students use CircUp to install their libraries. Again, if CircUp is new to you, we've got a lesson in the playlist. And if you take a look in the Shake folder, you'll find 13 files labeled shake-and-bake 0 through 13.mp3. Now back to PyCharm. Now a quick note, I allow my students to use a CircuitPython tip sheet that I've made up for this course. You can find that at this URL, bit.ly/CircuitPython with a capital C and capital P, -tip-sheet. I spell it starting with a capital letter so that it shows up right away if you save your browser history. This is a good URL to bookmark as well. The file contains configuration information for most of the hardware that we use in this course. It also contains commands for things like circup and TO, or deleting files so that a board is ready for a clean install. I don't allow my students to use any other notes or open older programs. They have to know basic Python commands and logic since this is a programming course, and I want my students to be prepared for code interviews. I think that's a good balance to strike for a Maker Electronics course. Now, since I want to use the accelerometer, I'm going to Command F or Control F on Windows and search for accelerometer, and we see some code here for configuring the accelerometer on the Circuit Playground. I'm going to highlight this, copy it, head back over to my code and paste it in. Now I want to repeatedly check to see if there's an accelerometer shake, so I'm going to do that inside of a while true loop. Make sure that you put a colon at the end. Then we'll head back and find the line that shows us how we can detect a shake. That's this one here with accelerometer.shake with a shake threshold. Copy it, head back in, and paste it indented below the while true loop. Now this statement will be true if we detect a shake, so we're going to put an if in front of it, colon at the end, and indented down below just to test this out first. I'm going to print out shake detected. Then I'll open the PyCharm terminal, head into TO, save this work. Let me put in a statement before the while true loop that says print running shake and bake. Save again, running shake and bake is printed, code running. And as I shake my CPB, each time it says shake detected. Nice work. Accelerometer working. Let's continue with the code. Now next we need to play MP3 files, so back in our tip sheet I'm going to search for audio. Here's a block of code for setting up audio with a CPB speaker. Copy that, head back to code. I'll paste it in up top. I don't need to repeat some of these import statements. In fact, I should have deleted digital I/O here. It's not going to crash my code, but it's just not necessary. I'll also delete this line where I import WAV files since I'm not playing WAV files in this code. But in the tip sheet, I'm going to scroll down and find the code to set up my MP3 files. I do need to import the MP3 decoder, so I'll copy that and paste it in. And then all this code down here has everything from the path configuration all the way through a function to play MP3 files. Copy that, head back to our code, and I'll paste this before the while true loop. And one thing that's very important to remember is you need to pass in the name of a valid file name in order to properly configure the MP3 decoder. Again, this was all covered in an earlier lesson in our playlist, so my students know how to do this. Since shake and bake 0 is one of our files, we'll change the file name to shake-and-bake0.mp3. Also remember that all those files are stored in a path named shake, so we need to change the path name to shake, keep the slash in there. And now I'm going to start shaking at file number 0, so I'm going to create a variable called shake_number, set that equal to 0. And so that I know when I've reached the last file, I'm going to create another variable called number_of_files and set that equal to 13. Then before my print statement, I'm going to create a variable named file that I'm going to use to hold the name of the file, and I'm going to set that equal to an F string, and between double quotes, I'll say shake-and-bake, curly braces, .mp3, and in between the curly braces, I'll put in shake_number. Then I'll change my print statement so that it says print passing in file. That'll print out the name of the file I'm about to play. Then down below, in order to play it, I simply call play_mp3 and I pass in file. Now here's the trickiest part of the code, and I asked you to use a ternary operator for this. After each shake, we should set up the next shake number to play. So we're going to say shake_number equals, and remember how the ternary operator works. We're going to say 0 if shake_number double equals number of files. But it's not just number of files, it's number of files minus 1. Remember, we're 0 indexed. Even though we're not using indices here, we use the computing standard of starting our numbering with 0, not 1. So if shake number equals number of files minus 1, which will be 12, that's our last file, shakeandbake12.mp3, we're going to pass a 0 back into shake number so that our next file is going to be shakeandbake0. Else, we'll pass shake number plus 1 into shake number. So again, if this part is true, shake number equals num of files minus 1, we'll pass in a 0 because we just played our last file, else otherwise we'll increment shake number by 1 and use that as the next number of the file that we play. Let's get back into TO, save our work once again with a Command S. Always make sure that you save your code to execute it. I've seen a bunch of students press the play button. That's not what you want to do when working with CircuitPython. Shake away, and we hear all these magnificent quotes from Talladega Nights. Each time our shake number is being incremented, and after we play shake number 12, we're going to hit that ternary operator statement, but this time instead of incrementing by 1, we're going to set shake number back to 0, and we play that first file. Nice work, I hope you got it, and if you struggled, I hope you now understand how to get this to work. There are more challenges and big learning to come. Continue to hack.